What up, folks? This is your boy Big Metro Fan 12 coming to you with another video. And this one is about 10 games that should have had sequels because they were well received, but for some reason or another, a sequel was never made or released. This sort of it could be considered sort of a top 10, but the games that I'm going to mention are no in particular order, you know. So let's get started with number 10, which is Kid Icarus. Now, Kid Icarus was one of the games that was released on the NES, and it's pretty much considered a classic. Now, the design of the game, the stage design, pretty much resembles Metroid to a certain degree. As a matter of fact, I read that Gunpei Yokoi was involved with making the game, so compared the fact that the level design looked pretty much like Metroid is reasonable. Now, this particular game should have had a sequel. In fact, it should have been a franchise too. But some reason or another, Nintendo pretty much put Kid Icarus to the back burner, and that was putting emphasis on other games that they made for the NES. In a way, it was a waste of an opportunity to make Kid Icarus a franchise. And they did release another one for the 3DS though, but it could have been a franchise either way you look at it, you know. It leads us to number 9, which is Metal Gear for the NES. Now, it is true that Metal Gear had a follow-up called Solid Snake or Metal Gear 2, but the reason why I'm putting Metal Gear on the list because it could have been a trilogy on NES, much like Castlevania and other games that were released on NES that were trilogies. Like another one is Ninja Gaiden and stuff, and there could have been some of the gripes that people had with Solid Snake's Metal Gear 2 could have been resolved by Konami and everything. So that is my reason for putting Metal Gear on the list for NES. Now, number 8 is pretty much Ghosts and Goblins, and the main reason I'm putting this game on the list is mainly because some of the some of the improvements and particularly the weapon upgrades could have been in a Ghosts and Goblins sequel for the NES and everything, and there could have been some improvements to the gameplay also with that could have been similar to Super Ghouls and Ghosts on the Super Nintendo. Now, number 7 is Star Fox 2. Now, from what I heard from other YouTubers, this one was actually in production, but for some reason they ended up canceling the whole thing and it ended up not being released. It could have been completed and ready to go for the Super Nintendo, but I don't know why they stopped production of it. But it could have been a very good sequel to the first Star Fox game. Now, number 6 rather, is pretty much Legend of Zelda. Now I know that Zelda 2 is the direct sequel to the first game, much like Metal Gear is the direct sequel to the first Metal Gear game. But the main reason I'm putting Zelda on this list is because of the fact that there's Zelda 2 was released pretty much 4 years before Zelda Link to the Past for the Super Nintendo. So to me, Nintendo had enough time to make a third Zelda game that would have been trilogy on the NES, much like it could have been for a Metal Gear. So in this particular instance, they had enough time, but they chose not to go that route. And number 5 on this list is Super Mario Sunshine for the GameCube. And the main reason behind this one should have had a sequel is mainly because of the game how the game ended with the final cutscene with the water gun dying, which honestly it made no sense to me why they would kill off the water gun. They could have used the water gun in a sequel with with a slightly different plot to it, you know. So yeah, the pretty much the main reason is that it's the last cutscene after you beat the game, you know. Now, number 4 on the list is Lollipop Chainsaw that came out for the 360 and PS3. Maybe I could put this on the list mainly because you could have pretty much an entirely different plot, a new antagonist, or matter of fact, you could bring the antagonist from Lollipop Chainsaw into the sequel, and have Juliet have new moves that were never seen, in addition to the moves she had in Chainsaw Lollipop. So those 3 things, in my opinion, is enough to warrant a sequel for Lollipop Chainsaw. Now, number 3 is Perfect Dark. The main reason behind it is because it never had a sequel to begin with, so Nintendo had an opportunity to have a sequel for Perfect Dark either for Nintendo 64 or GameCube. Even though Microsoft could have had an opportunity to make a sequel, but for some reason neither one has done it. But I would have preferred Nintendo having a sequel for Perfect Dark because Perfect Dark was pretty much a good game, even though the graphics for Perfect Dark was didn't age well, you know. But a sequel for this particular game could have been added. It would have been pretty nice too. Another number, which leads us to another number 2, which is another game that was made by Rare, Killer Instinct. Even though there was a Killer Instinct for Nintendo 64, it could have had a sequel, a proper sequel, either late in the Super Nintendo's life cycle or early in Nintendo 64's life cycle. Now, even though there's Killer Instinct Gold, you could have had added roughly 4 characters to it with their own moves and the reason why they joined the tournament. You know what I'm saying? And have bring back Idol and have another antagonist to it. You know. So this is my reason why Killer Instinct should have had one. The number 1. Now this leads me to number 1, which is Beyond Good and Evil by Ubisoft. The main reason this game didn't get a sequel because it was it was well received, but it was underrated at the same time, and it's mainly due to the sales because it was kind of poor. Honestly, even though I didn't play it, I'm gonna try my best to get the GameCube version of Beyond Good and Evil. And if anybody had played this particular game, you can mention what is good about Beyond Good and Evil, you know. So with that being said, this is probably the first list of games that should have had a sequel. Look out for more. As a matter of fact, you can mention what other games that should have had a sequel that I didn't even mention. If you like this particular video, don't hesitate to click the thumbs up button and don't forget to subscribe. Until then, I will be back with another video game review.